Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather today. I'm meteorologist Al Peterlin, and we'll talk about the weather health risk for September 23rd. The first map we'll look at will be our surface map, and today we have just two frontal systems, one stretching from Brownsville clear across to Jacksonville, and that'll keep unsettled weather not only along the southern Gulf but all the way up the eastern seaboard. We have a second and more active front stretching from central Montana clear down into South Dakota, back up into Minnesota and the Michigan Upper Peninsula. We will have an area of active, unstable, or instability from the high plains clear on up from the Texas Panhandle up into Nebraska. We'll take a look at my vitality index map, which is a composite map of the entire health risk of all of the weather elements. And we can see that much of the action and activity is centered either in the Four Corners, the center of the Four Corners, or in the high plains and plains, mostly Colorado into Kansas up into Nebraska. And of course, there always is that little bit of instability down here in Florida. Pressure change is finally getting interesting as we have rising pressure up from the central Rockies up the plains, and this will be with a migraine risk, and it runs from the Texas Panhandle clear across the Oklahoma Panhandle into Colorado and Kansas, picking up a portion of Wyoming, Nebraska, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Michigan Upper Peninsula. Temperature change is also relatively interesting, with rising temperatures across the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, and falling temperatures across that central portion of the plains from Colorado into Kansas, Nebraska, and really stretching into Missouri and Iowa. Dew point temperature change is also interesting. And we do see falling dew point temperatures here in New Mexico, but a burst, rising dew point temperatures here in the Texas Panhandle. And it comes out a lot more clearly using the delta or the water vapor, where we see the falling dew point temperatures here in the heart of the Four Corners that rise right along the Oklahoma-Texas Panhandle, and then right along that frontal there from South Carolina up into New England. Instability is also a sign of thunder-shower activity, and lightning itself can be a migraine threat, and that'll run from Oklahoma through Kansas up into Nebraska, across to Iowa, Missouri, and really stretching into Wisconsin. We'll finally look at the oxygen availability, or the POI as I call it, and we have a risk of arthritis and asthma stretching all the way up through the heart of California, picking up Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. The real risk of migraine stretches from the Utah across Colorado and into the heart of the plains, from the Texas Panhandle through Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, up through the Dakotas, but a little more in South Dakota than North Dakota. But we also stretch into the east, Missouri, Iowa, and Wisconsin. We'll drop back to the risk of asthma and arthritis here in Arkansas, pick it up again in Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio, and then a real risk of asthma and arthritis along that frontal position, and we find that there is that kind of action always along and ahead of front, and that runs all the way from South Carolina, clear through Maryland up to New Jersey, and along the coast up to New England or Maine. Thanks for visiting the patient and the weather. Comments are appreciated, and if you hurt, let us know where you're located.